Hello, this is Deborah Yao with Black Education TV, and I'm going to be reading an article from RT News. It says that South Africa's ruling ANC says that land expropriation bill will be withdrawn for further consideration. It goes on to say that a bill allowing the South African government to seize private land without compensation has been withdrawn by the Portfolio Committee on Public Works pending further study, according to the ruling African National Congress. In 2015, the ANC proposed a constitutional amendment allowing the government to seize and redistribute land without any compensation to its owners. The draft, which has not been adopted so far, evoked widespread international outrage and multiple media reports of alleged violence against white South African farmers, including murders. The committee's chairperson, Humphrey Mamizi, said that the bill was referred to Parliament on procedural grounds, but they couldn't duplicate a separate parliamentary process. If we, as Parliament, resolve to hear the people of South Africa on that important clause, it then goes without question that we must send the bill back to Parliament, he said, adding the committee had no choice but to withdraw it. However, the ANC reiterated its commitment to pursue the country's controversial land reform program. The ruling party wants to redistribute the land confiscated from white farmers to the black citizens of the country. Since the end of apartheid in 1994, the ANC has followed a willing seller, willing buyer model. Under the plan, the government buys land from white landowners and redistributes it among black citizens of the country. However, the land reform program has not brought the results the ANC wanted. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa announced this month that his government is enforcing a change in the Constitution to allow the expropriation of land without compensation. According to the ANC, the white minority in the country still own most of the land more than 2 decades after the end of apartheid. Much of the farmland in South Africa is owned by the country's white minority, also known as Afrikaners, descendants of Dutch and English settlers. The former British colony instituted a policy of strict racial segregation known as apartheid in 1948. It was formally abolished in 1994. The ANC government denies this is a widespread or systematic campaign to kill or expel white farmers, but maintains the major redistribution is needed to correct the legacy of colonialism. A number of Afrikaners have already immigrated, with as many as 15,000 Boers recently expressing interest in settling in southern Russia. There has been a reported rise in violent attacks against farmers in South Africa. There were 74 farm murders and 634 attacks, primarily against white farmers in 2016 through 2017, according to data by minority rights group AfriForum. The South African officials reportedly seized 2 farms last week from owners who refused to accept the government-set compensation. Okay, I didn't want to just read this. Of course, I have things I want to say about this. As far as the number of attacks, who knows if those numbers are correct. Whenever you're trying to push a certain narrative, you can say whatever you want to say. If we go back in history, we know how the land was acquired pretty much around the world. It was taken by force, by violence. And what they are doing in South Africa is they are trying to correct some of what has happened in the past. This is why they made a reference to land that was seized during colonialism. And they're just trying to correct the legacy of colonialism, meaning something was stolen in the past, and we're taking what was stolen and we're giving it back to the rightful owners. Now, when you look at it that way, it sounds fine. But when you listen to the narrative that is being painted by some of those who live here in America, I was looking at one prepper channel, and when you listen to the guy, for the most part, when he's just talking about his normal prepping stuff, he sounds like a guy who might be a Christian, seems like an upstanding citizen, might seem like a nice guy to a lot of people. But when you really listen to some of these nice guys or these nice women or whatever, you have to listen very closely, because sometimes even our people get sucked in. Oh, they're so nice. He's so nice. She's so nice. But how can you be nice? And I'm thinking of nice not in what we know it really to mean. We know that the etymology of the word nice means stupid. But what we've grown to know nice as is a person who's typically a good person, right? But as I listened to this one guy explain what he perceived as what was happening in Africa, there is always this hypocrisy, this refusal to go beyond the present. Right now, they are looking at the present and saying, okay, what is happening to these people in South Africa is horrendous. It is unfair. It is not right. Most of these people bought the land and blah, blah, this and blah, blah, that. But they're not looking. They're not even willing to look behind the present or beyond, before the present, to see how these people who bought the land obtained the land from the people who may have inherited the land from people that stole the land. You see, just kind of meditate on what I just said there. I know it may sound a bit confusing, but what I'm trying to say is that you have people who have passed down land that was stolen by their ancestors, and they've passed it down to their descendants, and some of their descendants decided to sell the land. So as I spoke before, I said, if someone steals your car, just say there was no such thing as a VIN number, to where it's just one person's word against another. There was no VIN number, and so you can't really determine who owns something by a title or VIN number, okay, or a license plate. But if someone steals a car, and then that person gets older and they die and they give it to their son, and their son says, well, you know what? My dad gave me this car. I know he stole it, but he gave it to me. I'm going to sell it. Does the person who lost their vehicle, does the person who had their vehicle stolen not still have a right to that vehicle? Do they not still have a right to it just because your thieving ancestor passed it down to you and you sold it? The rightful owners, or the descendants of the rightful owners, still have a right to it. But only a backwards thinking reprobate, or a person who is not fair, or a person who has a Christian mindset. You see, right now Christians have really, really shown themselves to be what they really truly are: hippo-Christians. You have Christians right now, got this man, number 45, singing all the praises and glory and honor to number 45, even though he checks in with porn stars. He gets busy with them. He gets busy with other type of women, and he grabs other women by the vagina and thinks it's cool, and all kinds of things. Lies through his teeth, racist and rotten to the core. But hippo-Christians say that he is an honorable man. Wow. So hippo-Christians are thinking the same way as it relates to correcting the era and the errors of colonialism. They don't think it's fair to take back what was stolen from you, because they're the beneficiaries of it. Now imagine, for argument's sake, let's just say we'll use the White House. We'll use the White House. They love the White House, right? Imagine if some African government swooped into this country somehow, and were able to take over the White House, kicked everyone out, and they just started ruling from there. And they say, look, I'm going to live here. I'm going to grow food on the White House lawn. And me and my African tribe are just going to live here in the White House. And then that person dies, and they say, you know what, I'm going to leave this to my son, Umbuku. And white people know that this is what has taken place. And they're sitting up there like, man, he's still sitting up in the White House and he passed it on to his son. The White House belongs to us. It doesn't belong to this African nation. So what if the son of the thief who took the White House or stole the White House decides, well, you know, I think I'm going to sell the White House to this black man over here who lives in Nebraska. He wants to buy it. I'm going to sell it to him. And so this black guy who lives in Nebraska buys the White House now from a person who inherited from a person that stole it to begin with. So does this black guy in Nebraska have a right to keep the White House just because he bought it from someone who inherited it, from someone who stole it? It's unfortunate that you have to paint scenarios such as this to get people to understand where you're coming from. Because, again, reprobates, they don't see it any other way. As I was listening to this prepper character, this is what he was saying. What if we started to just confiscate land from every black person here in America? Would you all think it was fair if we started to take land from every black person here in America? Now, let me show you why that is such an idiotic statement for him to make. It is not the same as what is happening in South Africa. Not the same. They are correcting the legacy of colonialism where land was stolen from Africans and given to whites. But here in America, how could he make such a statement when nothing was stolen from white people and given to blacks? As a matter of fact, the same thieves that stole land over there in South Africa are the same thieves who stole land here in the U.S. So how could you try to make that comparison and think that you're being righteous, Mr. Christian reprobate? It's not the same. Truth be told, the original inhabitants of this land you call America, and which you believe to be white land, the original inhabitants were black too. Come on now. A better way to have put that would have been, what if the Native Americans, the original Native Americans, not the ones that have been whited out through your bloodline, through you inserting your seed, what if the original Native Americans, who look more like me and my people, with a melanin that is, what if the original Native Americans decided that they wanted to do something similar? You see, that's the problem when you have people who have stolen their way to the top. And somehow they believe in their minds that they have a right to these things when people try to correct what has been incorrect for so long. They count you as unrighteous. But them being the original thieves, oh, that was my ancestors. I had nothing to do with that. I should be able to keep this land because it happened hundreds of years ago. That happened hundreds of years ago and has nothing to do with me. And so it's really hard to reason with people who can't think straight, who have the nature of a reprobate or the mindset of a reprobate, because they cannot even compare things righteously. You cannot say, what if we started to take land? Because that would mean that we as black people took land from you. And you're just trying to correct things and giving it back to or taking it back from us and giving it back to the rightful owners. We never took anything from you. You all took land from black people here in America too. Just like you did in Europe, just like you did in Africa, just like you did in South America. You are the land thieves. You are the ones who have gone all around the planet doing this. So please, when you compare something such as what is taking place in South Africa, make sure you do the right comparison, because you cannot say or cannot use the example, Mr. Prepper, Christian reprobate. You cannot use the example and say, what if the American government started to take land back from black people who bought the land and giving it back? Give it back to who? Who the hell would they give it back to? Because you are not the rightful owners.